Hello, welcome back to this lecture video. So I am teacher Melay, and this is just a continuation of our part 1 video on analyzing. So just to again show you the outline of this full lecture. So we actually take a separate video for each of the topic and end up with analyzing the data. But for our first video, the analyzing the data is only limited to the question number 1, which is the profile of the respondent. So in this video, we are going to go back to the research problem and answer problem number 2. Okay, so let us go back to our problem. So if you watch the first video, you know how did we came up to this table. So we actually have 2 tables, and the purpose of the content of the second column is for us to discuss and for us to know what is the appropriate treatment for our data. So just to review, what are the problems? So the problems are, so number 1, what is the profile of the respondents in terms of the following: age, sex, relationship status, and socioeconomic status. While number 2, what is the level of life satisfaction of the respondents? And number 3 is there a significant difference in the life satisfaction of the respondents when grouped according to their profile variables? So in the first video, for analyzing the data, we use tabular form for us to answer the question, what is the profile of the respondent? So we were able to do that. We use the PSPP to generate the table that we will need in interpreting the data. And then number 2, so for what is the level of life satisfaction of the respondent? So we have decided that we are going to use frequency count and percent. Mean and standard deviation will also be computed since the data is normally distributed by central limit theorem. So we did not do test for normality anymore since the number of respondent is 120. By central limit theorem, 120 is sufficiently large enough because it goes beyond 30. Okay, so this table is actually not part of the treatment of the data. So it is only our way for us to determine what is the appropriate treatment for our data. So for our problem 1, to describe the profile of the respondents in terms of age, sex, relationship status, and socioeconomic status, frequency count and percent will be presented. So this is for problem 1. But for problem 2, which will be our main objective for this video, we are going to determine the level of life satisfaction. And to do that, we will use mean and standard deviation. So aside from that, the level of life satisfaction will also be determined using the table for interpretation. Mean and standard deviation in each of the items of the questionnaire will also be computed and described using the same table. So the table that I am referring to is this table. This is the table for, or it is the table for interpretation, guide for interpretation. So aside from that, we will also come up with frequency count and percent distribution for us to show the summary of the level of life satisfaction of the respondent. So after computing for the mean, we will determine what is the level of life satisfaction of each of the respondent and show the summary of this by presenting frequency count and percent distribution. So what will we do? So we have to open now our data. So the data is saved in Let's see. So it is saved in our desktop. So let us open first. Let us open first PSPP. And then File, Open. So let us locate. So we have here the life satisfaction data and click Open. Okay, so how will we analyze our data? So let's go back to the treatment of the data. So first, for us to determine the level of life satisfaction, we have to compute for the mean of each of the respondents. So just like, for example, case 1, the level of life satisfaction of case 1, the level of life satisfaction of case 2, until the level of life satisfaction of case 3. So to do that, the first step, so number 1, our objective is to compute for the mean of item 1 to item 5 to determine what is the level of life satisfaction of each of the respondents. So the step is to click transform and compute. So if you also watch the video on the using Microsoft Excel, actually you can compute for the mean in the Microsoft Excel before transferring it in PSPP. So for this video, we are going to compute the mean using PSPP. Okay, let us place here mean. So you can see here on this side, so we have here the different function, abs corresponding to absolute values, arc cosine, arc sine. So we have actually a lot of functions that we can do using transform and compute variable. But of course, our concern is to compute for the mean. So the function is, you can just simply compute or write mean, open parentheses, click item 1, then place comma, item 2, you have to place comma. So there's no spaces. So just a comma. Item 3, comma. Item 4, comma. And item 5, and then closed parentheses. Or if not, we can also, as you can see here, we have the calculator. We can also place the formula here, like item 1 plus item 2 plus item 3 plus item 4 plus item 5 over, or using the slash, over 5. You can also, of course, get the mean because that is the formula for mean. Then click OK. So as you can see here, we have the value of the mean. So what is the meaning of this? If we will go to the table for interpretation, so let's place it here. So where is it? This one. So let's see. So using the table for interpretation, 5.20 is within this range. It means that respondent number 1 or case 1 is slightly satisfied with his or her life, or let us see the gender, or rather the sex of our respondent number 1. Anyway, it's also provided here. So 1 male. So the respondent 1 is male. So his level of life satisfaction is slightly satisfied. And for number 2, it is a 4, and 4 falls within this, so it is neutral. And then next, it is 6. Number 6 is within this range. It means that respondent number 3 is satisfied. Okay, so the next objective is, instead, of course, of identifying for the level of life satisfaction one by one, just what we are doing right now, what we are going to do is again to use the PSPP to do that. Okay, so in our objective 1, as mentioned, we computed for the mean. So what we do is we click the transform and compute variable, and we came up with this values. Now, the second objective is for us to determine the level of life satisfaction based on the mean. So as mentioned, we can actually do that manually, but we will use PSPP to do that. So what we will do is to click, again, transform, and then recode into different variables. Actually, we have here recode into same variable, and the other one is to recode into different variables. But if we will use recode into same variable, it means that the value of mean here will be removed and it will be replaced by another variable, and that variable is the level. So of course, we're not going to do that. So what we will do is to click transform, recode into different variable. What we are trying to do is we are letting PSPP use the mean. So we will take the mean and place it in our variable box. So using the mean, we will create a new variable. So we will place it here below, lower right. So we have here output. So you have to click this to activate. So we will come up with a level. So this is the level of life satisfaction. And do not forget to click change. So as mentioned, we transferred the mean. So make sure that you select the mean for you to activate output variable. And then after that, do not forget to click change. So as you can see, we have mean. Using the mean, we will create level. And then click old and new values. So here, our basis in coming up with recoded variable is to use the table for interpretation. So in our table for interpretation, we have the value 1 to 1.49. We will code this as 1, and we know that 1 is the lowest level of life satisfaction. So just like what we did in the socioeconomic status, if you still remember, we give lower code for the lower meaning or lower wealth. And then let's continue. After 1 to 1.5, 1.50 to 2.49. So this will be 2, click add. 2.50 to 3.49. We have to place this. So what is this value? So we actually are placing the table for interpretation. 3.50 to 4. So let's give the value as a 4. Sorry, it's 4.49. So if you committed mistake, you can just click that. You can remove or you can edit. So let's remove it. Oops. So we have to bring it back to 0.50 to 3.49. So also, of course, be careful in encoding. Add 3.50 to 4.49. So this is 4. Click add. 4.50 to 5.49. This is 5. Click add. 5.52. So the highest is 6. So this will be 6. Click add. And then do not, you can double check this 1 to 1.49, 1.5 to 2.49, 2.5 to 3.49, 3.5 to 4.49, 4.5 to 5.49, 5.5 to 6, and then click continue. And so we have here, okay. So as you can see, we have here another value, so which is a level. So let's go back to our scale. Oops. So as you can see here, it's not until 6. It's actually 6.5 to 7. So which means we have to go back. So of course, there are instances that you commit mistake. So how to go back? So you just have to go to transform again, recode into different variables. So it is still here. So it will not be removed, of course, if you did not close the PSPP or if you did not reset it. So we actually have here reset, but we're not going to click that because of course we can go back to old and new values and just edit this. So let's remove it. So it's a 5.5 to 6.49 is 6, click add, and 6.5 until 7. So that is 7, click add. So go over again and then continue. And of course, okay, so let's go back here. So these are the level. So I also, just like what we did in the socioeconomic status, relationship status, sex, all variables with codes, this is another variable with code. So instead of manually encoding this and then referring it to the table of interpretation, what we did is to let the PSPP do it for us. And then, of course, if you're going to do that manually, it is also prone to error. Unlike what we demonstrated here, we just need to be careful in encoding our table for interpretation. So let us see, how can we, let's minimize this. And then let's go back. So this is the output viewer. So every time we are doing something in the PSPP, like we recode the mean, so it is registered here. Okay. So we are going to use this for us to determine what is the meaning of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go back. Okay, so in our variable view, so under, of course, the level, so double click the value labels. So we have to place here the qualitative description. So what we are doing is to assign codes for this value. So the codes that we assigned here. So let me just place another column just to show you that. So we have the code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So the value 1 in the level means that the respondent is extremely dissatisfied. So click add. Number 2. Number 2 means dissatisfied. Click add. Number 3 is slightly satisfied and click add. Number 4 is neutral. Number 5 is slightly satisfied. Click add. Number 6 is satisfied. Click add. Number 7 is extremely satisfied. Again, click add, or you can just simply click enter in your keyboard. So we have the following qualitative description for the level of life satisfaction. And then, of course, do not forget to click OK. So let us save our data. Just, of course, click Control S. So we are already done with computing for the mean, determining for the level. So our third objective is how will we generate the table that we need for us to do what is stated in our treatment of the data. So remember, we mentioned here that we will present our data. So we will do that one by one. So let us go back to our level, or rather our Microsoft Word for this. So we have here to determine the level, mean and standard deviation will be computed. But as of the moment, what we computed is only for the mean for us to determine what is the level of life satisfaction. And then frequency count and percent distribution will be presented. So how will we present frequency count and percent distribution? So for us to do that, so we will just follow the same procedure in, of course, generating frequency count and percent distribution, just like what we did in the profile of the respondent. So we have to go back here. So what we are going to do is to click Analyze. But first, of course, you have to double check if you did not activate the last cell. So just like again with the problem that we encounter in the profile. So as you can see here, 121 is activated. So we will deactivate this first. So click 121, right click and clear. So we are all set. So now let us click Analyze, Descriptive Statistics and Frequency. So take note of this procedure. So as mentioned, our next objective is to generate frequency count and percent to show the summary of the level of life satisfaction of our respondents. So click Analyze, Descriptive Statistics and Frequencies. So we will transfer the level. So just in case, of course, we also want to know the value of the overall mean, so we can also transfer that. But for now, what we will do is just to transfer the level, just to show the summary, because that is our objective. So there's no need to place the mean, standard deviation, minimum, and maximum. Okay, so click OK. So this is our generated table. So let us see in the output viewer. Excuse me. So we have here extremely dissatisfied, the one with 0.8%. Dissatisfied is 4. Slightly satisfied is 17. So the highest is slightly satisfied with 48 with 40%, I mean. Okay, next. So we are done with the table for the level of life satisfaction summary. Now, we also mentioned in the treatment of the data that aside from that, we will also provide the mean and the standard deviation. Also, the mean and standard deviation for each of the items. Okay, so how to do that again? So let's go back here. So to do that, we just need to click Analyze Descriptive Statistics and Frequency. So the same, Analyze Descriptive Statistics and Frequencies. And then let's bring the level back to the list of the variable. So item 1, transfer item 1, item 2, item 3, 4, 5, and the mean. So you can actually select everything, or you can, or item 1 to item 5 and the mean at once, or you can click item 1 and then place it in the variable box. So if you prefer to place the variables that we need at the same time, you can click Control and then select item 2, item 3, item 4, 5, and mean. So right now, I am clicking Control. I'm holding Control while clicking items 2 to 5 and the mean. Then, of course, click the arrow going to the variable box. So what do we need? We need the mean and the standard deviation for this. So if you can see here, as you can see, we can also click, or we can also generate other variables like the sum, the median, the range, the mode, kurtosis, skewness, and all other descriptive statistics. But as mentioned in our treatment of the data, we will just use the mean and the standard deviation. And then, of course, other variables here or other statistical tools listed here are not necessary for us to answer the research problem. So it of course has its another purpose. Like what if, for instance, we want to check for the normality? So we have here some list, some statistical tests that can also show, or that can give us an idea or value for us to decide whether our data is normally distributed or not. But since we do not have problem for normality because our data is 120 and it is normally distributed by central limit theorem, then we will just click mean and the standard deviation. Okay, so click OK. Then let's see what is the result. So our data also, or our tables here also consists of the frequency count and percent distribution of items 1 to the mean. But what is necessary here is, of course, the table for the level. So this table, and the other one is the table for statistics. So we don't need items 1 to items 5 frequency and percent distribution, but you can also go over with the result just to see if what is the highest answer of our respondents, or if to see what is the highest frequency for each of the item. So this is the tables that we need for us to answer the problem. What is the level of life satisfaction of the respondents? So this is the summary that reveals the level, and this table shows the mean and standard deviation for each of the items. So in the next video, we will also consider interpreting this table for us to of course, to see what is now the level of light satisfaction of the respondents. So thank you for watching.